Good evening, everybody. Howdy, friends. Let's check in on Pine Creek, see what he's up to. Okay, just pulling up the comments here. Okay, so I'm going to go through a little bit of the beginning of this video. This is one of Doug's live streams from 5 days ago, I think. Not his most recent one. I think he did one today. So I'm going to go over this just because I think he's out, trolling for Trump. So I'm going to play it and see. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I haven't really, actually watched it. So we'll see where this goes. Want to say hello to Michael Deaton. Good to see you, and thank you for that reminder. Trump yesterday was literally the most hilarious total implosion of a campaign we'll ever get. The Trump's interview with the NABJ in Chicago went about as badly as any political event could go. I mean, I don't think a sitcom writer could have crafted a more cringeworthy episode for a politician. God Equals is here. Good to see you. Michelle Eggleston is here. Actually catching one of these live. Neat. Good to see you, Michelle. Thank you. Soulless Ape is here. Kent Hovind is here. Excuse me. His CPA is here. Don't put me on a TV. I hope it's not too big because, it's increased resolution. It just makes things sadder. Maya's here. We can start now. Okay. We've got Maya's permission. Let's get going. Hey, is that Sloth from Goonies? Oh, wow, Fenton. Hitting hard. Anthony Palma is here. Coco's is here. Greetings. Peter Guns and Vesta Freya. Good to see all of you, and thank you for joining me live. I do have to say one thing. I forgot to give props to Titan. If any of you know, Titan Uranus. He is a mod in many places. He's a mod on my channel as well. And I don't know if he's here, but he had mentioned months ago, maybe, that he believed that one of the candidates, Trump, Biden, would not be the candidate by the time we got to their conventions or would get changed to the convention, something like that. And I thought that was interesting. I was very, very skeptical at the time, but all props to Titan. He was right. We now have Kamala. So I keep forgetting to mention that. So I wanted to put that here and preserve it on a video. Titan, I owe you an apology for being. I probably should have been less incredulous about the comment, given everything that's happened. And now it seems like Chuck Schumer is even trying to say this thing where, like, hey, you know what? There's like 9 days left, 10 days left. It's not too late, Trump. Maybe you can brush off JD Vance before Ohio starts printing their ballots. So I don't see that happening. But then again, I didn't see Biden stepping down either until after that debate performance. Let's see, Titan coming in clutch with the Nostradamus-like prognostications. I mean, that was a bold prediction to make because I think he made it after the State of the Union address too, when everybody was like, Biden's doing great, the guy still got it, still sharp, put the whole he's too old to run for re-election kind of thing to bed, and Titan's like, nope, now one of them's going to go. Got it right. Okay, so let's get into this one. I think this is just, this was a call-in show that he did. I'm not going to watch all of it because it's a little over an hour and a half. But we'll watch what we can. He gets into a little bit at the beginning, trolling with something from Axe about Trump and some politics and stuff, making some goofy comments, which I'm, of course, going to weigh in on because I'm opinionated like that. And then there's a bit where he kind of gets into Matt Dillahunty, which he since made a shorter video about, I think. So let's play this and see what happens. I'll keep it at this size unless anybody wants me to change it. If you do, just yell in the chat there if you want me to adjust the image or anything like that, depending on your preference. Anyway, let's get this going. And what I'm going to do here is I think we'll just play this from the beginning and see where he's at.
Bring it up. This will freak out a lot of atheists.
I'm going to read this. This is something from Simon something or other. Trump, I will create a new federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias, and its mission will be to investigate all forms of illegal discrimination, harassment, and persecution against Christians in America. Okay. That sounds like feel sorry for ism, Doug.
Not me. I don't get freaked out about much. Let's see, what is Trump saying?
Investigate all forms of illegal.
Really, but if somebody came out and said they were doing this with, say, you know, LGBTQ people or trans people specifically, would he have an issue with it then? I mean, maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe he'll be freaked out for money if it gets him clicks and subscribers.
I will create a new federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias.
Oh, yeah.
And its mission will be to investigate all forms of illegal discrimination, harassment, and persecution against Christians in America.
Oh, yeah. This is going to really peeve off a lot of atheists.
And this has been a thing that he's been talking about for. This is not news. This is not news. He's offered this up before. Maybe not exactly in this shape, but something like it. Like, I'm going to be the guy for you. I'm going to have your back. I'll be your Christian soldier. I mean, they started calling him Cyrus. He's our Cyrus. You know. Yeah. Good to see a hand of doom.
That's good.
The weaponization of law enforcement is the greatest threat to freedom in our country, and
which he's actively running on. The idea of weaponizing law enforcement. You mean like using the Department of Justice to target your political enemies, which he blamed Biden for, but is actively promising to do should he be elected. He will do that. So, yeah, it's terrible that someone would weaponize law enforcement against their political enemies. Vote for me. I'll make sure to weaponize the law enforcement entities against your political enemies.
Nobody knows it better than me. I think I know it better than anybody.
Yeah.
Does he?
And sentences like this.
Weaponize law enforcement. Like he's been prosecuted. He's gone to court. He's been indicted, arrested. Yeah, he's actually been convicted, 34 felonies. Does he know it better than anyone? I don't think so. Other people have been arrested, convicted. A lot of those people are already serving sentences. He's not. He's campaigning for president in the hopes that if he wins, he can pardon himself. So he doesn't know it better than the people who are actually having to serve some kind of sentence for their crimes.
This really bothers some people because
because he's being a tool. Yeah.
Personality type is more demure and shy. And so whenever they hear someone with a lot of confidence, it turns them off.
But Trump is one of the most like jarringly insecure people that I've ever seen. He's not really confident. He's just noisy.
It happens to me too. People either love me or they hate me. But
because you're so brash.
Again, it's just personality type. That's all.
It's just okay, it's not dog shit opinions or horrible takes or disgusting stances. The way he has his daughter sit on his lap throughout the years. That's just Trump. Is there discrimination against Christians? Pretty sure they run things, and they're looking to run all things. That's the whole point of a Trump campaign. Can't a case be made that he's violating the First Amendment if he's going to do that for Christianity and no other religious discrimination? Yeah. If he tried to create some specific anti-Christian discrimination, he wouldn't be able to do it. He'd have to do some anti-religious discrimination thing, and he'd have to show that there's something missing in current civil rights statutes that somehow it covers that. It's already covered. What he's talking about can't be done. He can't. That's a good point. He cannot really just like pull that out and make an act like, well, we've got civil rights, but now we have Christian civil rights, just up and over, and Jefferson, what a relief that you are live streaming at the end of my long hot day, and a long hot day here too, Scott. But I know you're further south, and I can only imagine how much hotter it is down there.
The reason Biden, Harris, and their thugs are so desperate to stop us is that they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. We are the only ones that can stop them.
We are the only ones that can stop them. Okay, so who? Like Trump usually, like if he's confident, he shouldn't be using the word "we." He should say, "I'm the only one that can stop them." I'm used to that. I think he just kind of poked a hole in Doug's theory here. He's not sounding as confident as he used to. Antonio, Doug has another show dedicated to his YouTube channel.
This is a movement, Make America Great Again, MAGA, the likes of which our country has never seen before.
I think we were probably pretty close since sometime in the 50s.
And Democrats
It was definitely before the civil rights.
can use
movement.
MAGA too. I mean, they want to make
Okay.
America great again by getting rid of those right-wing conservatives because they're so evil and dangerous.
When were we ever free of them, Doug? How would we make America great again if our definition of great is being free of right-wingers? You'd have to find a time in the United States past where we were free from right-wingers. Good luck. I know you're from Canada. I don't expect you to do all that homework. I think the citizenship test did, but you know, we'll not talk about that for now. I have notes.
That's right. Yeah. Investigate all forms of illegal discrimination, harassment, and
It's called civil rights. There's nothing new to be added there. And if he tries to make something extra special for Christians, that is not going to hold up real well.
and persecution. Yeah, if it's illegal discrimination, then that's the government's job.
Doug's right. It's civil rights. But why is he just like nodding along, lazy-eyed, like, oh, okay, it sounds okay to me. I mean, what's wrong? What's wrong with that? Right? Like, because I'm just replaced. Like, well, we need to do something about all the discrimination against Sikhs in this country specifically, and we're going to establish a separate department that deals with the discrimination against the Sikhs and just them. Oh, are they covered under civil rights? Oh, they are. Well, maybe they need more.
Enforce the law, right? Oh, what's wrong with that? Let's see. I'll put up the whereby link if anybody wants to call in. And just because you call in, and if you're a left-wing progressive, it's not immediately, it's not the default position that you're mentally ill. That is to be determined.
Real? Oh, well, okay. Because my next question was going to be, why say mentally unstable progressives when I thought he had moved on to saying that progressive, just using the word progressive as a pejorative that was synonymous with mentally unstable. But apparently he's saying, oh no, it's not the default position. Maybe he believes that there are progressives out there that my guess is his identification of a progressive would be somebody who wants like I don't know, maybe a more progressive tax code, but is just up in arms about what's going on in Olympic women's boxing right now. We'll get to that in a bit too. I'm also surprised to see Doug not understand the difference between genuine confidence and the feigned confidence of a used car salesman. Yeah, exactly.
Determined. So don't not call in because of that.
Oh, sure. He's poisoned the well, but please come.
You could call in and like demonstrate that you're pretty reasonable and stable.
By agreeing with Doug. That's the benchmark. If you agree with Doug, you'll be stable. Now, I find this interesting because other than my individual commentaries where I've gotten quite worked up, not like Pocket Locker. I'm not saying that to judge Pocket Locker, Jay. I'm saying like I don't think I have quite the same level of passion. But when I have done those, they've been on my own. When I've actually spoken with Doug, it's usually been pretty cordial and I think pretty on the level. So, but now he just ignores. Like I do post comments every once in a while on his shorts and stuff, especially some of the ones today because they were stupid. He doesn't reply. He doesn't want to play. Why do libs always call names? Yeah.
David, you love me.
Doug's
You don't
a
even
stable
know
genius.
me. You don't
Only in his own category. Yeah.
say you love me, but thank you. Appreciate the sentiment. I should also go on Discord.
Is my audio cutting in and out for anybody else? That's a good question. I hope it's not. I don't see any clipping going on my side, but I don't see any bandwidth issues going on.
If you already have Discord, let me get an invite link.
Okay, here we go.
I made this one. I want to play this one here. Sometimes
clicking
atheists
around.
are just.
I need a louder mouse so I can keep up with them. I'm trying to like model everything that I do off of his show. I need the blue screen, which is a blue screen. I think that's a little too on the nose. Maybe that's like wearing a tux to a job interview, but it's a little fucked up. But I need like a super loud mouse.
Just like conservative evangelical Christians. Matt Dillahunty is just like a...
Is he just going to play his own shorts again? I could do this.
Evangelical conservative Christian.
For the ones that are trying to shut down Project 2025, maybe stuff will continue. Implement Project 2025, or there are going to be a bunch of people trying to make sure that Project 2025 can never get implemented. Which world would I want? Oh, wait a minute. If I vote for the ones that are trying to shut down Project 2025, maybe stuff will continue to be bad in Gaza. Maybe there'll be record inflation again. Maybe there'll be this. Yeah, but the world won't fucking end. And democracy may be able to be rescued.
Democracy may be rescued with the appointing of Harris. Yeah.
Interesting tone of voice. Does Doug think that Kamala is a threat to democracy? What's that about? Like, oh, she's not going to be able to protect it. Do you admit that somebody's out to get it, Doug? Okay, so I don't really agree with Dillahunty's. I agree kind of with the sentiment here, but I don't really agree with the language, and I think it was a little awkwardly put. But a lot of people are concerned. Like when people started getting into a lot of people were Googling Project 2025, and they're opening up and they're like, well, these guys got some interesting ideas, interesting with big quotes around it, for what they want to do. Like they want to. I think they wanted to cut pay for active duty military. It's absolutely, I mean, they're just bizarre. One of the carve outs they had was having to do with privatizing. Like he gets after somebody on here. They want to privatize the National Weather Service. They wanted to do something with the FBI. I think they wanted to make the FBI like basically like the executive branch's secret police, which is crazy. I think chapter 26 is essentially advocating for a return to the gold standard, which would be economically devastating, not just to the United States, but to the world. I mean, there's a lot of really bad stuff in there. Now, granted, old Trumpy Poo, he's been distancing himself from Project 2025. He doesn't want to be. He's like, no, it's not Project 2025. My shit's Agenda 47. Go to Agenda 47. There's a lot of the stuff in Agenda 47 crosses over into Project 2025 territory, and it's not any less weird. It's all kind of the same. Some of it is stuff that's just unworkable. Like if he tries to do it, even especially as an executive order, a court's going to likely throw it out. If they try to make it some kind of like even legislation that probably wouldn't stand judicial review, the only way some of that stuff could actually get done is if it passed as a constitutional amendment, which I don't think that they're going to win enough seats to be able to do that. How much you want to bet Doug's mouse had a ball? Has a ball? I'm not sure. Good job. Check my notifications. Good to see you, Spooky. Nice of you to be here. And Viva Hernando. Good to see you. Pinecone Dave is the MAGA version of Pine Creek Doug. Let's see.
For guys like mentally ill, far left atheists, they've
mentally ill. I want to encourage Doug to take his own advice and be more dead inside. Do you have any evidence to support that the guy whose image is superimposed over, next to your right shoulder, or maybe that's his left, but for the purposes of this viewing, do you have any evidence that he's mentally ill? And if you do, please let us know what it is. Like actually put that out there. I'm pretty sure I know why Doug thinks Dillahunty is mentally ill. And I want to hear Doug say it out loud. If he hasn't. If anyone knows that if he has, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with Dillahunty's girlfriend. Good to see you, Mounty. Nice of you to join us. They are interesting or weird ideas. They're all weird ideas. A lot of them are completely ineffective, except for the ones that probably do more damage. Like, let's say, like opening up like any and all drilling to just about any interest. Or the best one, continuing what Trump did like in his first term, basically just rolling up any limitations on polluting air and water. He's saying, "Oh, it's going to be so clean." Like, no, it's not. It wasn't before. Like, he did some truly horrible shit environmentally. Hey, good to see you, Gray Knight. Shatterhouse, you sure our Supreme Court will throw this out, Jeff? No. I mean, the Supreme Court probably wouldn't, but here's the thing. Like, at best, like, he's in there and some of the stuff is going through and a district court just like, kicks it away. And it just happened. We're lucky that the Supreme Court doesn't have the time to review it. Then it goes away just because there's so many of them that would get sued. So, let's talk psychology. Yeah, exactly, Matty. Let's talk psychology.
View Trump winning as a real possibility that the world will end. This is apocalyptic type thinking.
Not necessarily. There's good evidence to suggest that if the scientific evidence about what we need to do to mitigate the effects of climate change in terms of, you know, allowing us to continue to live on the planet in any way, because we're rapidly losing the ability to be able to continue our existence on this planet for a prolonged period of time in a comfortable way or a sustainable way. We might be able to do it, but it's going to require a lot of intervention. Then you need to make sure that you don't have idiots like Donald Trump wasting time and making things worse. So there is an existential connection to this, an existential threat, not to the world the planet will live on, but to the world as we know it, where humans live in the way that we have grown accustomed. That's not going to be a thing. It may already, depending on the scientists you talk to, it may already be too late for that anyway. Hopefully it's not, but it may. So anybody that's a climate activist or even, you know, a little bit familiar with where kind of climate research and activism are right now, Donald Trump is a threat, and a needless one too, because even if you're not a super big alarmist when it comes to climate, the idea that you have as many people as we do, and you have somebody coming in who just basically thinks that you can rip and run like it's the 50s and 60s again, which is something that we never should have done in the first place, is fucking stupid. You need people that are more responsible than somebody like Donald Trump. I mean, somebody like Pine Creek thinks it's great because he's gonna enjoy a marginally lower tax rate. Maybe if Trump gets in, it's going to be easier for him to impress clients that he works for in his like finance business. I guess maybe they'll be happier. That's cool. So if you just evaluate everything based on the fact, it's very hard to spend money in a forest fire, though, and those are increasing.
Now, tell me, how different is Matt Dillahunty from this evangelical Christian?
So here are the 6 signs that the world is ending. Are you ready? We're going to do this. Number 1, an increase in stress, anxiety, and mental illness. For people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful socialists, unholy, heartless. Hey, I'm reading the word of God. No interrupting.
He's lying about reading the word of God. That's not cool. I mean, sure, it's joking, but that's not cool.
There's either going to be a bunch of...
See, at least the Christians even is funny and engaging.
No, he was being flippant. Here's the thing. One of them is talking about the effect that Trump's decisions is going to have on everybody, regardless of beliefs. Driscoll believes that if we don't get people lined up so that they're all in agreement, then people are going to continue to be immoral assholes. So these are not the same concerns. They're not even in the same. They're not even on the same planet. Like literally, one of them is thinking about where the afterlife is, and for some strange reason needs everybody to be holy now. And Dillahunty's thinking like, yeah, somebody like Trump comes in here, and we're probably not going to meet certain, we're not going to make the steps necessary to really do stuff to mitigate some of this climate stuff. We're looking at some real logistical problems for the survival of mankind. Now, I'm kind of putting these words into, but I've heard Dillahunty talk about this before. That is a concern for him. Driscoll's just concerned about people not being saved. And Doug here, who is an atheist, is shamelessly equating the two. because they're both talking passionately about two different things, but for some strange reason, he's willing to pardon the passion of Driscoll because he threw in a joke, but Dillahunty's being earnest, so Dillahunty's clearly mentally deluded. I mean, this is the logic of a jaded 13-year-old who thinks the most mature, coolest position to take is none at all. I don't care about anything. Like, I don't know who hurt Doug in the past, but he can move on from this and actually care about stuff. A lack of passion is genuinely a red flag.
Matt Dillahunty is just depressing, sad. I mean, yeah.
So he'll listen to. Okay, so what Driscoll was saying, that these people, if they don't get right, are gonna be ungrateful socialists, lazy, weird, creepy, covetous. That wasn't sad. You can take the kid out of the Mennonite community, but I guess you can't take the Mennonite community out of the kid, right? Like, that's familiar to him. So he's like, oh yeah, well, he's been an atheist for what, 10, 15 years now, I think, maybe less, maybe less than 10, but yeah, less than 10, because he's lived in the United States. He used to attend churches here. So, all right, like, has it occurred to you, Doug, that the reason that you're comfortable with that language because you grew up in it, like, it's kind of familiar to you? Like, Driscoll stuff doesn't alarm me because I used to hear that kind of crap as a kid all the time. How can Americans forget how well Donald Trump handled the COVID-19 pandemic and the million Americans that died as a result of his handling the crisis? That's a good question, but I have a feeling that he's probably, what I'm really interested to see is what the vote turnout's going to be, no matter how this thing plays out. I have it on good authority that, and by good authority, that I know a person who has disturbingly accurate political instincts when it comes to guessing who's going to win a presidential election. And according to this person, they said Kamala Harris has this election by the ass. Now, that their wording, not mine. Like, unless something truly horrible happens, like, she's going to win it. That's according to them. I'm just saying that's their prediction, and I happen to trust them. I was surprised to hear that. I didn't think they would be that dedicated to that prediction. But we'll see. But what I am interested in seeing, regardless of who wins or loses, will be the total turnout. Because Donald Trump, even though he lost to Biden, set a record for the largest number of people who voted for a politician in a presidential election. He was second, only to Biden. So once those votes got counted, or, however these guys like to call it, because I'm pretty sure Doug thinks some of those aren't real, Biden has the record for most votes cast. So we'll see how this one goes. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot for Harris, given if the honeymoon phase and anticipation and excitement of her campaign continues to carry into the fall, there's going to be a lot of turnout. The real thing I'm curious about is Trump's turnout, because Trump's campaign is looking, what was the word Doug used? Depressing. It looks depressing. I mean, it's weird. There's a bunch of weirdos saying weird shit, but it's also depressing.
Yeah. But feel free to call in on Discord or on Whereby. And you can tell me where you disagree with me. I've been starting to think that with people on the far left who are so, like Matt Dillahunty, for example, give them whatever they want. Say, hey, if Trump wins, he's going to be a dictator on day one, and it's going to be really bad. I mean, Matt Dillahunty, he's going to round you up and other atheists and put you in prison.
I don't think that's Dillahunty's concern.
He might even execute you.
That would be a bummer. Yeah.
Like, feed them the desires of their heart. They want to imagine the worst case scenario. Give it to them.
Okay. The worst case scenario would be a novel virus breaks out in a foreign country across the ocean, and it begins to spread. And then upon hearing that some people in a boat or on boats are en route from that country to this country may have that virus. Upon their arrival, they are poorly quarantined. It's confirmed that some of them have the virus. And most people are just let go. And the reaction from the leader is, whatever. But this is the guy that got rid of the pandemic response team that the executive office had attached to it to work with, places like, CDC. It was no big deal. So after 1 million plus people die of this virus, and he's continuing to say things like, oh, it'll go away in April, or it's not that big a deal, or maybe you can get some light in the body, or maybe we can somehow get some disinfectant in you somehow, because the virus doesn't like that. A lot of various bullshit things. At the end of the day, the worst case scenario that I can imagine is a man as pig ignorant as Donald Trump being in charge of the country during a novel global pandemic, and we just lived through it. And he wants more of that. That is so weird and depressing.
Let their anxieties rise to the boiling point. And
I don't think that you could. I don't want to tell Doug this, and I'm going to say this right now just in case he watches my video. A lot of those anxieties are going. One of the reasons that I think the anticipation, the excitement around Kamala Harris getting in and kind of energizing the campaign, there's a lot of good news associated with her, right? She's got a convention to go to. She's got a nomination to accept because I think that's in the bag. She's got a VP to pick. We're probably going to know who that is by next Monday or next Tuesday. Lots of good stuff happening. Lots of good news. What's happening for Trump in the meantime? JD Vance is a fucking moron. All right, he's a well-educated, intelligent moron, but he's still a fucking moron. He keeps saying goofy shit he read in blogs out loud to the press. Or he did that already and people are unearthing it and playing it again and again and again. He's a goofball. And Trump has always been a piece of shit, and he's a loser. And he just demonstrated that at the NABJ, where he couldn't help it. Like, at the same time, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who is a leader in the Republican Party, is begging his party, don't engage Kamala Harris on these two things. Her ethnicity, don't do that. And I can't remember what the second, her gender, her sex. Do not do that. Don't talk about the fact that she's, biracial, black, Indian. Don't bring that up. And don't bring up the fact that she's a woman. And Trump literally went sprinting into that in front of the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago. It's as if none of the right hand does not know what the left hand is doing anymore. And I'm trying to figure out what values being presented, what values on display are shared by Doug here. Trump is killing his chances. He's his own worst enemy. It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, but part of the excitement that I think people are feeling was watching that crap happen when Biden was in and feeling like it was inevitable. Like there's a really good chance that Trump was going to win. The statistics were showing it. The polling was showing it. It was looking worse and worse and worse. Now it's looking better. So that excitement, I think, is directly correlated to this anxiety. So if Doug wants to do this, I encourage Doug and anyone who's a fan of Doug's to take his advice to heart. Please, when you're talking to Kamala fans or any Democratic voter or anybody undecided who's a little on the fence, stoke their anxiety, please. Because if they are looking for relief from that anxiety, it's unlikely they're going to continue to find that with Trump's campaign. So please keep doing this. Let's see where else Doug goes with this.
And the reason why I say this is because oftentimes people's happiness and sadness is directly correlated to their expectations. So give them the expectations of the worst case scenario, make it ingrained in their brain. And then when Trump wins, if he wins, on day one,
was that a prediction, Doug? Are you saying he's got a chance? He does have a chance, but it sounds like Doug's counting on it. Darren says, but he brings the couch humper vote, a super huge constituency. JD Vance does bring that, despite himself. Yeah.
If they survive it, they go, wait a minute, I'm still alive. Day two, wait a minute, I'm still alive. I mean, the world hasn't ended. The United States hasn't ended. Democracy is still here. Day 3, the days will start cutting down, and they're going to look back on the fears they had and say, I was kind of irrational back then. So my advice to people on the right, talking to people on the extreme left who have these fears, kindle those fears. Now, if you sense that they're violent and they can go crazy, like literally start killing.
I want to just post this here. Okay, so I just picked this up because clearly he has forgotten. This is a Vox article from January 28, 2021. The mental health impact of the Trump era. His presidency is over, but the trauma isn't. This entire article here, this is from Anna North, a senior correspondent for Vox, blah, blah, blah. And this is about kind of the lingering effects of that. People were, in fact, not. I know for a fact that when the media, and Doug's forgotten this because his political, his memory is shit when it comes to politics. The initial political reaction when he won, other than people, there were people that were big Hillary supporters that were crying and tearful and all that kind of stuff. I was a little stunned that he won. There were friends and family that I knew that were not really upset, but were angry that he won, especially the way that he won. He didn't get the popular election. It was electoral college victory. But it was still a victory. He won. Once he did, the press coverage at that time, and you can check my notes, check my homework. When you go back to take a look at that, the press was like, well, now that he's actually in there and he's got advisors, he's in the institution, he's in the Oval Office, is this going to kind of make him, basically the whole thing, is he going to grow up? Is he going to shape up? Is this going to like weigh on him? Is he going to be a little bit more focused, a little bit more mature, less brash, less personally aggrieved when he talks? Nope. No, it wasn't very long before he basically announced like a calendar where he was just going to tour the country, perpetually campaigning and golfing instead of doing his goddamn job because he didn't know how to do the job. He had people for that, people that he fired. So he had something like a 96% turnover rate in one term. I can't remember how many people never even got permanently replaced. There was just somebody acting with an asterisk next to their name until he was gone. And then they continue to have an asterisk on conspiracy theory blogs and stuff because those people are like, well, Trump still is president, if you think about it. Jokes. Doug does not know what he's talking about. People initially were aggrieved by his, especially if they weren't cool with it. Then the media changed to, maybe he'll be okay. There's only so much he can do. The presidency is limited, blah, 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 blah. Bam. Muslim ban. He wanted just to specifically ban them. And everybody's like, nope, that's true. He's an idiot. He's a fucking idiot.
People then don't. But if they're just your regular Joe Schmo far left, yeah, tell them, yeah, it's going to be really bad. I mean, dictator, round up people, concentration camps.
A Doug who won't look at science papers and admits complete ignorance of 2025, calling other people irrational. Well, yeah, exactly, Titan. And good to see you. Won't lie, I expected 4 years of sheer clown car shenanigans. And that's more or less what we got. I mean, it was actually kind of quiet for the first 2 years. He passed, he signed off on the one bill that was an incarceration reform, which is a good one. Kim Kardashian was a backer. Then he pushed through the tax cut, which did not help as many people as people thought. A lot of people's tax returns just shrank or went the other way. But that juked the economy a little bit. And then, it really wasn't until his last year that we started running into the pandemic. And it was also campaign years, which made, everything crazy. But everybody was freaked out, for Christ's sake. I mean, especially that last year when the pandemic was going on, people wouldn't wear masks. People were, pacing back and forth in front of grocery stores armed because they wouldn't wear, they'd carry a gun into the grocery store, but they'll be damned if they'd wear a mask. Humbled by the power and dignity of the office. Yes, language like that was used. It did not work. It did not take.
World War III, in fact, nuclear war, the world's going to come to an end. But, that'd be good for the planet if we got rid of all humans. Talk like that with them. Maybe.
Not the way we're doing it. Like right now, the climate change is working out really beneficially for things like ticks and rattlesnakes. A lot of animals are going to die, not just humans. And the idea of some kind of like just a steady ascent into, sure, we're making ourselves extinct. Let's triple down on that, because I want cheap gas now.
Maybe it's time we go extinct anyhow. Give them the desires of their heart.
Please. I'm not kidding. Please do. What he's telling people to do is you hear them complain about this, feed into their fears. Exactly. And then guess what they're going to do? They will definitely vote for Kamala Harris. Because if you feel that angst and somebody's feeding it to make it grow, and the angst is based on the fact that they think that there's something about Trump's campaign that is making them terrified, they are definitely going to vote. Please do this, Doug. Please. I really hope he watches this. This is... Is he, I mean, Doug's doing the Lord's work at this point. By the Lord's work, getting our first woman president in the office. I mean, Doug sounds like he's working through a bit of asthma right now.
Matt effed up after coming out. I think Dillahunty was engaged in a bit of hyperbole there, no? I don't think so.
Did Doug commit to a mohawk, or do the headphones cover his side hair tufts? No, he still got the side hair.
Oh. But if he was, I guess he's just like Trump. Audio issues on the Discord. Can't hear the people on the videos. Yeah.
I
don't think you ever will.
He's throwing his hand around. Let's take it.
He's the type of person I would give him the desires of his heart. Give him what he wants.
The desires of his heart. What, is he still talking about feeding people more anxiety to make them even more anxious and turn them out for Kamala?
Trump is okay with the majority of abortions. Yeah, I made a shirt on that. That's true.
Yeah, but he's also okay with his political party making a federal ban out of them. I don't understand why these guys have a problem with this when this comes up. It does not matter that Trump personally is for that, right? The party is going to be against it, and especially like the situation that they want is for Trump to get in and for them to take a majority in the Senate and the House. All right, and what are they going to do when they get that? They're going to push for a national abortion ban, and Trump will sign it. Now, if they had a big enough majority, if they were to take, if it was a red wave and it really swept in, they would pass a national abortion ban, I think, with a 2/3 majority. And then that would be great for Trump, because Trump could be like, well, you know what? Normally, this wouldn't be something that I would initiate. But with a 2/3 majority, if I don't sign it, if I try to veto this thing, they could impeach me on that shit. So got to do it. Hands are tied. But it's not going to matter. Even if they've got the smallest of majorities in both houses, they'll try to get that thing passed and they'll get it on his desk and he will sign that shit. Because he's a rich guy. It doesn't matter to him if abortion is illegal. He can go someplace else and get it done. For any of his wives, daughters, kids, cousins, however they want that done, they can. The rich people will take care of themselves regardless of whether there's a law in place. That's just silly talk, right? The fact that he's not, and I would point to his views on disabled children and whether or not they should remain alive as one of the things that I really question Doug's notion of shared values. Because I think his sister, before she passed away, spent a long period of time disabled and in need of special care because of the illnesses that she had. If you read what Doug had to say, or what Doug might as well be, what Doug's hero Trump has to say about that, given how Doug has reacted to people like Randall Rouser when they brought up his sister, or flippant about her condition or flippant about her something, I don't know. He said that Randall Rouser said something about Doug's sister in a way that made Doug want to hurt him. Well, if we are to believe the accounts of the book that's coming out, it sounds like Trump just thinks people in those circumstances should no longer be burdened with their medical condition, if you know what I mean.
There's this kind of hidden promise that if you vote Democrat, things will go back to where it was when it comes to abortion. That's false. For people on the left listening right now, abortion will not be a right for decades
What?
in the future.
Unless it's passed. That depends on how Congress decides to pass it. Right. This is goofiness.
If it ever goes back to where it was, that it becomes a medical right.
Okay, hang on. The reason it was a right before, abortion was not a special right. That's not the point of Roe v. Wade. Abortion was connected to a person's right to privacy. That was considered the right. And that's why the Dobbs decision is so stupid. Because it essentially says in a certain sense that you don't have a constitutional right to privacy under certain circumstances, namely if you're a woman who is seeking certain forms of birth control. But what can unwind from that is the erosion of the notion that you have any constitutionally protected right to privacy at all, regardless of your gender or circumstances or issues going on. He's right in the sense it's never going back to that. You're right. What's probably going to end up happening is that they're going to end up passing something that explicitly states we have a right to birth control. Not that a woman has the right to pursue this kind of birth control because she has a constitutionally recognized right to privacy and the decision is hers, made in consultation with her care provider. That is how it worked before. The way it comes around next, if Democrats get in, could be stronger. So Doug's already wrong here. God, he's bad at politics. Jesus.
That will take 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
It will not. They can pass legislation and put it into effect within Kamala Harris's first term. And if it's legislative, it's actually stronger than the court case, especially given the Supreme Court case. It would be right back because it would explicitly be the Congress would be establishing that the citizenry, if they do a constitutional amendment, they can make it a constitutional right. But if they can pass a law saying, no, under this law, you have access, you have the right to pursue these kinds of things, that can happen. It has to survive some kind of judicial review. The first thing they need to do is judicial reform.
Accept the things you can't control. So if you're a woman and you've had abortions in the past and you probably want abortions in the future, either be in a state that allows it or
which sometimes you can't control.
If you're not, be prepared to set aside, $5,000 to $10,000 a year in your bank account to make.
Who is he talking to? So in order to defend yourself from this, no man has to prepare $5,000 to $10,000 of their own savings in case they get pregnant, but you expect a woman to. This is precisely what's wrong with decisions like this. This is why it will get overturned incredibly quickly. Even if conservatives were smart, if they wanted to get out ahead of this, if they wanted to actually get more supporters, they'd get away from the Christian crap and come after this kind of stuff. Because birth control is remarkably popular, especially when you need it. This is ridiculous advice. Oh, well, all you need is $5,000 to $10,000. You set that aside just in case it happens, and then you'll be able to do. Okay. What if in the process of getting the $5,000 to $10,000 set aside in the event you will experience an unwelcome or unexpected, unplanned for pregnancy, you are a woman, you are physically attacked and impregnated. Guess you stood. What's he going to do? Well, you should have saved sooner or saved faster. This is fucking weird, man. That is a weird. Only a guy who's never really had this. Does he have sisters that have ever had to go through this? I mean, I personally haven't, but I have sisters. I mean, there are women in my life where it's like I can imagine how this is going to play out, and that isn't viable.
Make that trip. Accept the things you can't control. Maybe stop having.
But you can control it. You can vote. Don't vote for Trump. If you want to be able to get birth control and you want to be able to get it affordably and relatively conveniently, hell, not even conveniently, just logistically possibly, then don't vote for Trump. Because conservative, even if Kamala Harris is voted in, even if it's a blue wave and Democrats take the Senate and the House, conservatives are going to triple down on going after that, your people's access to contraception, and specifically women's access to terminating pregnancies, specifically. And he's trying to say, well, you know what? Make lemonade with lemons with your $10,000 that you can't afford. Conservatives.
In that type of sex and have different types of sex. Stop your whining and complaining. And realize that
do not stop complaining. Realize what?
If a Democrat says, "Oh, it's about women's rights," you're not going to get that right back, in quotes. In fact, it's not a right anymore.
Motherfucker, it never was a right specifically. Oh my God, does he think Roe v. Wade established a right to abortion? It was predicated on a person's presumed right of privacy. That's why the Dobbs decision was as controversial as it was. Roe v. Wade did not specifically lay out abortion as a protected, separate constitutional right. It connected it to a right to privacy. They're going to come along now. Legislators are going to come along and try to make it even stronger than it was before. His prediction on this is wrong. His analysis on this, dead wrong. His advice to women who are going to have to walk into his Trumpian future with just 5 to 10 grand, squirreled away under the floorboards in case they get raped, that is not going to work.
You're not going to get it back for decades. It's done.
Made by Jim Bob. You and Doug having a show together debating this stuff would be great. Is there a reason this isn't occurring? You'd have to ask Doug. Personally, I think he's a little afraid of me because I don't stop talking, for one, and also I get passionate and he pretends he's dead inside. I know he's not. There's certain things that you can poke on him and you will see some passion come up. His cynicism and his derision are actually kind of a form of passion. And the fact that he's out here trolling people is also, he's craving dopamine hits, which is an emotional thing. But yeah, the reason it's not happening is because he doesn't respond to my comments, and I doubt very much he'd invite me to any kind of debate. Now, if I popped into Discord or something, if he happened to be there, we'd probably start talking. But having like a set discussion on this, it's never happened. I mean, you could always ask him and find out, but
you know how much work it would have to take to reverse that? You'd have to change the Supreme Court.
No, it's hard work, but it's not impossible, and it's not going to take 20 or 30 years. Mostly because a lot of younger women aren't going to let it. They're just not. Doug is not. He's trying to say, well, the situation is just, it is what it is, and, tough, it's never going back again. It never was what you thought it was. They could have put this in, they could have made this a legislative thing before. Republicans will never vote on it. Titan does have receipts on him being a snowflake. By the way, Titan, if you do have those receipts, would you mind sending me some links? DM me those on Discord. Only the ones you'd be willing to share. Or, well, I should rephrase that. Only the ones that you don't mind me giddily talking about on a live show, because I'll talk about that shit. He is scared. He would rather bully people. I don't know that he's scared. I think Doug actually thinks that Trump's going to win. I think he's very, and Trump could win. There's still multiple paths to victory for him. But I think he's really counting on it. Hey, Beck, how's it going? Good to see you.
Wait for people in the Supreme Court to die off. Their whole concept of rights, really.
You're equally cringe. That's why. I mean, I am a middle-aged guy talking about politics and current events online. So I'm going to take that. I know you meant that as an own, but okay.
Bothers me.
What did he say there? What bothers him?
Their whole concept of rights really bothers me.
Oh, I know. Rights is that's just a pisser, isn't it? I mean, people thinking that, he doesn't even understand how the right worked under Roe v. Wade. So yeah, I can understand like, oh, their whole concept of rights it just bothers me. He's demonstrated that he doesn't understand how at least one of them works.
It's like, it's such an arrogant, most of the time, it's such an arrogant thing. It's like,
has he ever been to a Second Amendment rally? Has he ever talked to conservatives that talk about the right to have a gun? And he's talking about the arrogant.
I have my rights and I demand this, I demand that.
Okay. Like Christians demand recognition and power in a Trump presidency. Like Second Amendment activists demand their guns. No limits on what they can have. Most of them are like that. Those are the ones that are going to be really arrogant. It's the progressives that bother Doug. The women that are like, wait a minute, I should have a right to access these forms of birth control because of my circumstances and because of my right to privacy. Does that not apply anymore? Doug, you arrogant piece of shit. Look at you. Entitled, blah, blah, blah. But somebody could be, but he demands that the government militarize the border so that he doesn't have to deal with immigrants crossing into his state anywhere near him. Does Doug believe that he's entitled to that? The government should be doing that for its people.
We need to have the pendulum shift to that direction of responsibilities. And
okay,
people saying, you know what, it's my fault.
And you're going to vote for a guy who's never said that in his life. These are Doug's values.
I'm stupid. Direction of responsibilities. And people saying, you know what, it's my fault.
But you're voting for a guy who's pathologically incapable of doing that. He's voting for a guy who is one of the most entitled pieces of shit on the planet, who would never take Doug's advice here, would never subscribe to this culturally, doesn't even acknowledge that it's a good thing. Like, well, this is where we've got to go. You're not going to get there with that guy.
I'm stupid. I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I had sex, unprotected sex. Yeah, it's my fault. I'm not going to blame the Republicans that I can't get an abortion now. I'm going to blame myself that I was stupid. Yeah.
What does that have to... Okay, so you're going to say, okay, the problem is that they're not taking responsibility. They're trying to take responsibility for a pregnancy that they didn't plan for. And the politicians are saying that's one thing that you can't do. You can't take that kind of responsibility. You have to just deal with it. And then when they're like, well, wait, hang on a second. Yes, I didn't realize that Doug was this much of a prude and this much of a moralist. So if is he okay with this? If somebody has sex before marriage and their birth control fails them and it results in a pregnancy, do they have to just say, I fucked up. Guess we're having a kid now. Nothing for it. Even though there's Plan B pills or medical abortion pills. And that's over 80% of what makes up elective termination of pregnancy. That's taking responsibility. And Doug is going to vote for the party that wants to remove that option from people so that they can't take that course of action and assume responsibility for their mistake. Instead, what they're going to do is those people will be forced to bring those kids into the world, resent the shit out of each other and probably the kid, not in all cases, obviously, but in a lot more than would have one of the other boys been. And the government is then going to have to deal with the fact that it's probably going to have to provide some kind of subsidy to help those kids, which I don't have a problem with. but he does. So which one's it going to be? Pat says the abortion issue terrifies conservatives. This is one of the top 3 issues motivating voters this cycle. Doug wants to make it a non-issue and hopes to discourage voters who want it to remain legal. Yeah, and the fascinating thing about this is that this is one of the issues. If Doug's trying to say like, hey, just feed into their fears, precisely feed, just talk, continue talking to women like this, Doug. Continue doing it. I beg you to keep saying crap like this. I mean, I'm still going to criticize it. That's what I do. But holy shit. How do you, where are women going to go if you and others continue talking like this and feed that angst? Give into, like, how does he say, feed them their heart's desire. Okay. They're feeling anxious. They're nervous. They're worked up. Not only am I not going to have these options in some states, I might lose any of these options in all the states. Vote Harris. Doug is the best example right here. This guy right here and his shit is the best encouragement for Kamala Harris voters I have seen in a few weeks. And right now it's her honeymoon phase. So she doesn't really need the help.
More women should think like that. Oh, see, that should flame.
Why should women think like that and not guys? Last time I checked, if a woman gets pregnant, a guy had to put it there. It's her fault she had unprotected sex. What about the women who are in steady relationships? Maybe they're married, maybe they're not. They're using birth control and it fails. Can he answer that question? I'm sure he'd be like, oh, well, no, in that case, in that case, they get abortions. So they get to go before some kind of a parchik or mandarin appointed by the Trump administration, and they can sit down and they have to go through a review. And only if they meet his priggish ideals do they get access to Plan B or some other access to terminate the pregnancy. Otherwise, hit the bricks. You screwed up, and your attitude. You need an attitude adjustment. And this is the best way I know how. Get out there and raise a kid. I think that you're an irresponsible, entitled, arrogant piece of crap who's unwilling to take responsibility for yourself and your past actions. Raise a kid. He's a fucking moron. I mean, it's been a long time coming. I've been watching this guy's content for a while. I truly, at this point, there's no question in my mind. This man is a midwit. This is some low IQ shit here.
The emotions in some.
And now he's chuckling about it. Keep chuckling. Keep chuckling about that. Every chuckle feeds a Harris vote. Unbelievable.
I am on the left and I support the right to abortion, but we never had it. Roe versus Wade was always a bad decision. The privacy argument was incoherent.
It wasn't incoherent. It was just a little flaky. It was predicated on other cases, and that was what they picked at in the Dobbs case. It was a battle of semantics. But ultimately, that person is kind of right from the jump. Abortion was not laid out as a right. It was connected to the right to privacy. And that's what Roe v. Wade argued. And that was how the Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade decided, was based on the preservation of a recognized constitutional right to privacy, which included a woman's ability to choose to terminate a pregnancy with a doctor. Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, I will watch those later, and I will probably end up reviewing them. How old are they? Let me take a look. I'm going to need to get going here pretty quick. Let's take a look here. Oh, okay. Oh, are these in chat? I think one of these I already read, but I'm going to read them again. Yeah. Thank you, Titan. Okay, let's see if he's got anything more to say, and then I'm probably going to.
Well, we never had it. Well, you had the right to seek out an abortion prior to the overturning of Roe v. Wade, right? Doug is sounding more like Jim.
It was a crime to seek the services of an abortion. You did not have the right to pursue. What is he talking about? Has this motherfucker ever read a book or watched a movie?
Bob every day. And why is that bad? If a Christian's right about something, if I think a Christian's right about something, then I want to sound like that Christian.
I mean, yeah, he has triggered me in the sense that, I mean, he's getting me really excited for the inevitable Kamala Harris win that he is actively stoking at this point. I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to it. You know, any chance she's got, I think is going to be, it's better than Trump. I mean, Trump's a known commodity. I mean, come on, people. He fucked up a pandemic. Looks like your twin. No, my twin looks like my twin. Abortion is essential health care. Yes, it is. He is ridiculous. Yes, and weird and depressing.
When they're talking about that thing I think is right. Right?
No.
Stop your tribalism.
Good advice. That's great advice, Doug. Holy shit.
Atheists, Christians, Muslims, Jews.
They all just need to get right, and y'all need Trump.
We can all come together when on certain things that you
Money and slut shaming?
agree with.
Money and slut shaming.
It's not bad, Doug. Okay. I'm an atheist who believes that a man and woman coming together, having kids, and a white picket fence and a dog is a good way to go. It produces stable members of society.
What if those people live in a multi-generational home? Is that bad in comparison? I'm just wondering here. Doug would rather Ben Shapiro show up at his door with a helicopter full of Peter Thiel money to pay him for saying stupid right-wing shit. Doug is insincere and hollow, vacuous, and obscene. Yes.
That end up paying taxes and help others. You know what I think is not good for society?
Anything that deviates from a fascistic norm of a nuclear family, where the man and the woman raise a little soldier, male soldier, and a little female homemaker, and as soon as they hit breeding age, they go off and create their own little satellite houses, where every little family is isolated to their own tiny little set of needs and interests and fears. Because if they're in multi-generational houses, they have layers and layers of protections, and they start thinking, what's the word, communally? That's dangerous. You don't want them doing that.
Having kids saying they're non-binary or trans.
How is a nuclear family going to prevent that? We've had the idea of the mom, dad, 2-point-some kids, dog, and a white picket fence for a long time. And in that paradigm of encouraging people to follow that social good, that social norm, trans people revealed themselves. They were always there. Doug doesn't get this. Gay people, trans people, queer people, non-binary, they were there, but they were living the facade that he appreciates, the one that he wants, the white picket fence in the house. They can take care of it on their own. The mom and the dad, they can shame the kid. I mean, maybe the kid's gay, maybe the kid's trans, maybe whatever, but they're not going to let him go outside like that. This is his thinking. Like, I don't understand why he's an atheist. Like, because it takes an enormous amount of faith to prop up this kind of bullshit. And usually it has been facilitated by the church. The idea of having an isolated family is that they are isolated. If you have multiple generations kind of living amongst themselves and exchanging goods and services, they start getting ideas that sharing is a good idea, as opposed to having a patriarchal system where there's one earner, brings the money, the wife takes care of the home, they raise up the 2 kids, the male goes to business or to war, the girl finds a soldier or a businessman, gives him kids, takes care of his home. Repeat. You don't think there's anything wrong with that compared to the alternatives I can think of a lot of better alternatives sociologically.
Mental illness, anxiety, depression. Those are not good things.
And the white picket fence is going to. Okay, so now I'm going to ask him, has he ever seen a movie called The Ice Storm? He probably won't watch it because it was made by liberals, which is to say foreign people. But it's an Ang Lee movie. Kevin Kline, Sigourney Weaver. At least I think Sigourney Weaver's in it. Kevin Kline, Sigourney Weaver. Anyway, he should watch that.
What lowers the risk of all those things? Having stable family homes.
Or just homes that don't talk about it.
A lot of people are screwed up because of unstable family homes. Bad mothers, bad fathers.
And is one of those screwed up things the trans? Is that what he's saying? I love how he says this stuff indirectly. When asked, Doug, is your position, and maybe somebody can correct me on this in the chat, and then I'll get out of here. Is your position, Doug, that the reason that trans people occur, that the trans identity happens, is because they get screwed up in their family? They're desperate, they're depressed, they're confused. All these things could happen to anybody at any time, even in good families. But he seems to think that it's because they're not hitting this. This is magical thinking. If they just go for this norm, everything else is going to work out okay. It's going to reduce, like, oh, maybe there'll be some outliers, some weirdos here and there. But for the most part, it's going to reduce that. I don't think that that's true. I don't think you would have seen an emergence of how did the civil rights, issue occur in a country where, for like, the 40 years preceding it was built on this norm, the nuclear family. You got civil rights, you got gay rights, you got like free living, free loving, hippies, everything. Like, it all exploded out of that. It doesn't work. I figured it out. He's an alien. He's not from this planet. He arrived here I don't mean like alien in the pejorative sense we talk about refugees. He's from another planet. He's not from Canada. He's from, like, Alpha Centauri somewhere. He doesn't know. And they sent the lazy one, the one that won't watch TV or read books. So he has no frame of reference for anything. He's just learning this as he goes.
Which leads to dependence, which leads to you voting Democrat. Mr. Smeal mainly. Hello, sir.
Hello, Doug. How you been?
I'm starting to think he is this stupid, because his whole point of, like, doing his little analysis thing, especially about the abortion thing, he didn't have to volunteer that, but that was, I mean, remarkably stupid. Like, oh, well, you're never going to get it back because they're never going to bring back a right to abortion. Like, it never was a right to abortion. It was connected to a right to privacy. Like, he's pieced this together from the backs of sugar packets or something. But I do catch your meaning. The shit stirring is definitely the goal, but I think it's shit stirring with a healthy side of stupid. Talking about dysfunctional families, I know of at least one lady who works in porn whose father is a prominent, in his mind, Christian apologist. Go figure. Yeah. Can always break in a weird way. All right. I'm going to drop it there because now he's getting into calls and I've covered enough of his crazy shit. But yeah, so Doug is going to serve as a goofy MAGA apologist for Trump and his campaign right on up until November. And I am here for that shit. So yeah, let's see how weird this gets. And if Jim Bob is correct, maybe word will get back and Doug will want to have like a pre-vote conversation, debate, something. I don't know. Solid. Oh, you're talking about oh yeah, Matt Slick. Gotcha. Yeah, not that that's connected to anything that I just read. Anyway, folks, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you very much for stopping by and checking in live. I really appreciate it. Like, dislike, do whatever you got to do. Comment. If you've got anything interesting for me, please send it my way. jeffersonspatchcock@gmail.com. I think I've said hello to everybody. Doug is exactly what the MAGA campaign needs. All rejoice. I mean, some of the stuff that he's talking about, like, what we need to do is really just feed into the anxieties of potential Kamala Harris voters. I'm like, yeah, do that. I'm willing to bet that there is a direct correlation to the amount of anxiety they feel and the amount of excitement that they feel about Kamala Harris potentially being president, and then their desire to get out and vote. So if I'm right, this can only be good for Democrats. So maybe this is why that rebuke and reprove guy doesn't do videos anymore. He refuses to do them while Biden's in office. I really wonder how he's going to react if Kamala Harris gets in office. Anyway, I'll be around for that too. So good to see you in time. And I'm going to get out of here. See you later. Pat, thanks for stopping by. And thank you, everybody else, for being here. And special thanks to the mods. I'm going to get out of here right now. So let me play myself out with a little video. I will be back hopefully this weekend, if not next week. Things have been up in the air with work and extremely busy. So I do apologize for these kind of last minute hangs, but they're going to be like that for, the next few weeks at least, probably. So with that being said, catch y'all later. Take care.